make sure that we're moving in the right places. Okay, we're live there. Check YouTube. Right. And we're back. Hello, welcome to Derps Talk About Games. I'm your co-host, Mango.
And I am your co-host, Buddy.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about everything all at once. Concepts, not the movie. But before we do that, Buddy, watch the folks that know what it is we do on this podcast.
You know, on this podcast, we like to talk about games. Unfortunately, there's been no news, zero news. Nothing new has happened in the world of video games for the last 4 weeks or whatever it is, man, that we're not been around. But there's a smaller version of that, which is to say that, you know, when we're talking about sort of concepts for casts, you know, we toss things around and we go, that's not quite a full episode, that's not quite a full episode, and eventually we built it all up and we reached critical mass, and today that's us. We are here, we are at critical mass, I would say.
Yeah. Plus, it's just been some build up over the past couple of weeks since we haven't been on. Been too busy playing Commander and going to Red Fairs to record a podcast or whatever.
Also true. Yeah. Anyway, so where do you want to start? There's like a bunch of stuff to like get at, I would say.
Yeah. Well, let me since this was going to be very exclusively me, because I don't think you've even like seen anything in the Reggie Dinkins universe. Let me just start off talking a little about Reggie Dinkins.
Sure.
So, as folks at home may recall, longtime viewers may recall, my wife and I trade off television seasons to watch. You know, we watch one thing. One of us puts out a season, the other one does a season. And at the end of the last one that my wife picked, which was it was like JoJo part. It was Golden Wind. I was like, on my docket were a couple different things. Like I was like, oh, I want to do like Kill a Kill. I want to do Cowboy Bebop. I want to do a couple other different things. Maybe do like Andor or something, right? Like maybe do one of these Marvel shows so that I can get caught up before the thing. And it's like at that moment I was like, you know what I want? I want a stupid comedy. And I had been getting short form video of this show that stars Tracy. I always forget which one's the real one. Is Tracy Morgan his real name?
Tracy Morgan is his real name. Tracy Jordan
is the 30 Rock
is what it is in 30 Rock, yeah. Which I just recently watched all of 30 Rock again, which was wild, and I guess we can talk about that in a minute. But so Tracy Morgan.
Yeah, Tracy Morgan and Daniel Radcliffe. I see a bunch of clips of this, and I find out it's called The Rise and Fall of Reggie Dinkins. The concept is Reggie Dinkins is a disgraced Jets player. He was a top player, and then he got caught gambling on the games, betting on himself to win. So not like it's. I think they put it that way because it's like if you bet on yourself to win, there's no like conflict of interest, right? You're still trying your hardest, right? Like
Yeah, if you bet on yourself to lose, you are throwing the game like the 1919, Sox or something.
Yeah. But if you bet on yourself, I think they do that so it's like so he's sympathetic still, right? Like he's not like a dirtbag or anything. And he's also kind of dumb, right? Like he is playing Tracy Jordan, right? Like the same type of character. It's got big 30 Rock energy, and it's got like there's a couple of references in here that I think are Sopranos references, but I can't be positive, but I'm pretty sure they're Sopranos references. We were talking about Dennis Duffy a couple weeks ago, and like that voice actor, who I can't remember the name of right now, or not that actor who can't remember the name of right now, during one of the episodes of Reggie Dinkins, they are watching Chicago Fire, which I think is a real show, or is like there's a couple of shows in this universe, but the voice coming out of the television is, I think it's Dean Winters.
It is a real show. I am learning.
I don't think Dennis Duffy, Dean Winters is like a real character on that show, but like you hear the voice coming out of the television, it's like that's Dennis Duffy, right? Like I recognize that voice anywhere. He's also the
There are 14 seasons of this show, Jesus.
But like that is kind of the this is like a B or a C plot in the episode. It's like it's just kind of like they have the TV on and it's just constantly playing episodes because there's so much of it, right? Like it's like you could imagine this doing it's like a Law and Order thing, right? Like you have like Law and Order marathons that are all day long or whatever. Same type of things happening with Chicago.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, in fact, Chicago Fire is executive produced by Dick Wolf. Who knew?
You know what? It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
And then the other half of this is Daniel Radcliffe is he is a filmmaker. He has won an Oscar, and now he is teaching film at the University of Maryland. And then a couple episodes in this is a very mild spoiler, but we find out that he is doing this documentary. He's doing a documentary about Reggie Dinkins. Reggie Dinkins wants it to be a puff piece because he's trying to get into the Hall of Fame. And we find out that Daniel Radcliffe is doing this because he was tapped to direct a Marvel movie, and he has a breakdown on set and starts screaming about they've got like a scene where it's like all blue screen and they're like moving tennis balls around, and he's like, so that tennis ball is a head, but that tennis ball is actually a tennis ball, and he just like starts screaming and like crying on the set. And so they're both kind of like trying to build themselves back up out of their own holes. But it's a sitcom, right? Like it's an office style sitcom. An office style sitcom that's kind of aware of itself. One of the secondary characters is a kicker named Rusty. He's I forget the actor's name, but he's like an SNL comedian. You would recognize him. And he lives in Reggie's basement. He's like Reggie's best friend, but he was never like a good player. Like while they're talking about doing this film, like the first episode is them establishing that they're going to film this film. And Rusty says, I've been working on my gym looks. And he like looks at the camera and does like a gym look from The Office. So it's like obviously fairly meta.
Bobby Moynihan. This guy has been on SNL for like 100 billion years. And he actually recently, I guess not that recently at this point, he was on SNL for just an insanely long time, 2008 to 2017. So he did this 9-year stint on SNL. I actually think that his stint was in fact beaten by Kenan Thompson of all people. So,
And the other characters in here are like Reggie's ex-wife is still his agent, and they are still very close. And she's like the straight man. She's like the Captain Andre, if like Brooklyn, and Brooklyn Nine. What's the name? The Andy Samberg cop show, which I can Brooklyn something some numbers.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Thank you. She's like the Captain Andre, the Captain Andre character, or I forget what his actual name is, but you know what I mean. And then his current fiance, who's like a TikTok influencer. He's got a son. And there's also starts fun little stuff like there is his Jerry Dinkins' NFL rival is played by Craig Robinson. It's a character called Jerry Basmati, who is clearly a mashup of like a pastiche of a bunch of like these post-career football players. And the biggest ones are obviously Jerry Rice from his name, and to me, Michael Strahan is in New York. He is the host of a morning show post his career, which is like exactly what Michael Strahan did after his. I don't know if he's still the host on Good Morning America, but he was for a while. And so like it's fun because there's like a lot of like sportsy stuff. It's not like too deep. It's not like you need to know sports stuff to appreciate it. But like there's a recurring gag about how are we going to do the sports documentary because the NFL will not give them permission to use footage because he's like, a disgraced gambler, right? Like, all sorts of little stuff like that. It's very funny. It's got big 30 Rock vibes. It is not great yet, but it's been renewed. And so I'm hoping it'll kind of hit the highs of these other shows as it goes on. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. And, I think you would enjoy it. I think a lot of people would enjoy it, right? It's like a good, easy, like, you know how you said you just rewatched 30 Rock? Like, I think that's hard to do with like there are shows that are like funny that you can put on in the background and like they're kind of warm and they're a blanket and
we had a conversation about this, me and my friends, we were talking about comfort shows. Like, what are our comfort shows? And I was sort of talking about how I thought that I was going to have comfort shows for all time years ago, and certain shows that I would have considered to be comfort shows, like Parks and Rec, Community, have sort of fallen off. I actually have a hard time rewatching Parks and Rec, just because, like, frankly, it's a pretty political show, or not political in like a modern sense, but like political in a show about politics, and it is really hard to watch in an era of Donald Trump. Like there's kind of a lot of that, sort of like feeling to some of these things. Like these are from these halcyon eras that were before the rancidization of our current politics. That's exactly how I felt about going and rewatching 30 Rock. Is like 30 Rock didn't understand it's a perfect Obama era show, right? If we're going to watch a show, like we're going to tell kids in a media studies class or whatever to like watch a show in order to understand the Obama years, in the same way you might ask somebody to like watch like, I don't know, the Cosby Show or something for like the Clinton years, like some Full House, right?
Right.
For the Clinton years kind of thing. That's what watching 30 Rock is going to feel like, I think, for people, because it's such an Obama show. Like that era of politics, it's just completely so written on its sleeve, and it just does not survive a transition into, a political era that surrounds sort of Donald Trump. But I deeply understand these comfort shows, right? The idea that you just kind of have shows that you can return to and they are effortless, and you put them on and you go, ah. For me, actually, a huge one of that is Kroll Show, right? Which I've talked about a million times on the podcast, which I recently started rewatching with Rachel, and it's just as funny as it was back then. It's, in fact, even funnier. There are, weirdly, and I know I have seen this show at least 20 times through, beginning to end, and there are aspects to the bits that I am only catching now compared to when I had originally watched the show from, whatever it was, like 2013 or something.
I
Um,
I feel that way
so
about Community. Although my comfort videos are weirdly like best of the worst. Like I will just randomly pick a best of the worst video and watch it. Like the one in particular that I watch a lot is the um because I have it saved because it's unlisted now, is the Max Landis um
yes,
uh
the Neil Breen one,
yeah,
which is so
exactly.
legendary,
Right.
because Neil Breen. We still need to have a proper Breen marathon. Now that everybody's up here in New Hampshire.
Maybe. I don't know, like among our group up here, who do you think would be down to watch intentionally bad movies? Like I did that for a while. Like I used to listen to a podcast called How Did This Get Made, which is
Yeah.
uh a couple of relatively famous comedians talking about bad movies. And we for like good like 6 months we watched these bad movies and then listened to the podcast, right? Like um that's how I watched Face Off for the first time, which is like one
Yeah.
of my favorite bad movies to watch, is Face Off.
I watched a lot of these in college just because we didn't have anything to fucking do. We were
Yeah.
all sitting around, and so we watched a million of these. That's when I watched Face Off for the first time.
Excuse me.
It's when I saw The Room was somewhere in college, was I saw it for the first time. But even then, I don't even really remember that stuff, if I'm super honest with you, just because, like, I don't know, watching something alone by yourself is just different than watching it with like a big group who are constantly, and you're doing that thing of like riffing on top of the movie. Like, I don't really retain the movie at that point. I just kind of am doing the
Yeah.
shtick. But I don't know. I feel like we could get people, together for it.
You know what my favorite bad movie actually to watch is, and I have watched maybe more than any other movie besides like maybe the core Star Wars trilogy, is the original Mortal Kombat movie. Like the this because like this was it was in San Francisco. I was living with friend of the cast, Charles, and we were like flipping through Netflix. It's like Mortal Kombat. It's like, can we make a drinking game out of this? Sure. And you hit play, and the New Line Cinema logo spins in, but it just starts playing the Mortal Kombat theme. It's like as spins, it's like Mortal Kombat. Like, oh yeah, it's on, and it's just like, oh man, watch that movie a lot.
So do you think that Reggie Dinkins is going to become a comfort show? Is it that good? Does it instantly get
Not
that status?
yet, but I think it's on the trajectory to get there.
Okay. I like the idea of it, especially as like a classic thing. like a classic sort of show sort of premise. I don't know. We it's nice to go back to that and to visit with it, I guess is
Yeah.
how I would describe some of that stuff. I don't know. Is there more that you wanted to hit on there, or do you want
No,
to move to the
that's
next thing?
basically it.
Okay. The next thing, man, what do I want to talk about? I want to talk a little bit about Diablo 4. I've been playing Diablo 4 again recently. I just rebeat the story. So this is the version of Diablo 4 that came out in 2014, the story where you end up killing Lilith and Neyrel takes the soul stone and takes it down to wherever the jungle. I just started the Vessels of Hatred sort of campaign. I fucking love Diablo lore. I have come to remind myself. I think I liked Diablo 4 a lot when it came out. We played a lot of it. I remember really loving sort of like aspects of the story. The part that I loved the most is Inarius. And like his confrontation with Lilith at the end in like act 6 or whatever, sort of whatever act it was. And I remember there being a little bit of this was like half of a contrarian take because there was a little bit of a backlash in like the Diablo community. People wanted to fight Inarius. The idea was that Inarius was going to be a boss. He should have been one of the act bosses like the Butcher in Diablo 3 or Asmodan in Diablo also 3. But Inarius was not. You never fight Inarius. Inarius dies in this cutscene where he faces off against Lilith and kind of faces down like his own, I don't even know, sort of Shakespearean tragedy to it, and I just love every second of that. I think it's so fucking good. The game is quite a lot different than how I remembered it, which is interesting. The I've been playing as Spiritborn, and I'm not sure if Spiritborn is just structured differently than other classes are structured. But the way the runes work is just much different than what I had sort of remembered from my original pass through sort of Diablo 4, which I do find kind of interesting and compelling, and I want to get kind of like deeper sort of into, but I don't
Well,
know.
Spiritborn was the first new class, right? So like it was, I think, a
Yeah.
little bit of a push out in terms of like what they were willing to do with the mechanics. The game has changed significantly since launch. Um,
Yeah, there used to be a lot of like talent. Like you spent a lot of points on stuff that modifies your abilities by like 8, 16, 24%. And you get three little, 3 points to spend in it. Do you want to spend all three? Do you just spend one? Do you care about this at all? Kind of thing. All of those, it seems like, have been like decreased to 1 point each. So it is just you take all of your abilities, you assign one rune to each of the abilities, and then you just pump the point. The abilities themselves get pumped up to, you get up to 15 ranks of them now, which is just way more ranks than you had gotten in the original, in the original sort of game. So that's like the big difference that I'm kind of feeling at the moment when it comes to that. I don't know if the old what have you been playing in your seasonal character?
so I've been playing the paladin. That's because it was new, and I figured I'd give it a whirl. But it's like the newest one is the warlock. So I figured I wouldn't be like one of the 10 billion warlocks running around. I'll be one of the 5 billion paladins running around. Um, and so like each class has their own kind of bespoke mechanic. Um, the paladins like is one of the less interesting ones, right? Like I think that how interesting each of the kind of individualized class mechanics I think varies pretty wildly. Um,
Yeah.
the paladin basically has like 4 pretty defined tracks about which way you're going, which way you're going, and the paladin, excuse me, the paladin one, you just like kind of pick a buff that has to do with like the track that you're going down, and it's fine. It's not terrible, but it's also not my favorite. Um,
Yeah, I actually had that same sort of feeling about Spiritborn. There's little quests to open it up, which was nice, where you have to like go into the spirit realm and hunt a spirit beast or whatever, and then you commune with the 4 animal spirits. And one thing I want to credit them on is they chose really awesome animals here. I think that when you talk about like a totem warrior sort of class, like a class that is going to get animal sort of spirits to buff them up or whatever. Like Pathfinder has this with like barbarians and stuff like that. D&D also does a version of this with like totems in their sort of barbarians. Everybody always goes for bear is strength, and whatever, like monkey is
Climbing.
dexterity or whatever. It's just like all that kind of stuff. The ones that they chose for the spirit board are excellent. It is gorilla, eagle, jaguar, and centipede, which are just like, they align pretty straightforwardly to like, you have one that flies, one that's fast, one that's strong, and one that's, I don't know, weird or
Yeah.
venomous or whatever. You know what I mean? But they did not choose, like, they could have done this by doing bear, tiger, I mean,
Wolf.
eagle, I guess, is actually a little normal. And
Yeah, well,
then
I
and then
think part of it
snake.
is that druid is like has half of that pantheon, right? Like,
Yeah, has like bear and wolf. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And it is actually so sweet. It is so fucking cool that you are summoning a big giant spirit gorilla and he slams the ground a bunch of time and does a bunch of damage or whatever. Honestly, that spirit gorilla seems really fucking broken. I have tried all of the different animal centric builds where you like go down the path of that animal. So, when you do this with the centipede one, you take all the poison skills and you just poison everything to death. When you do the jaguar one, you're doing very rapid hits. It's this whole thing that's just like, you need to keep attacking, and each auto attack you do, like each attack you do generates a bunch of stuff and it makes your stuff cool down faster, all that other kind of stuff. Um uh the gorilla just seems so insane. Gorilla is so fucking good. I have powered up my big gorilla ultimate, and all I do is I summon my big gorilla anytime I ever reach a rare or like a pack or something like that. I summon my big gorilla and he kills them for me, kind of thing. And I don't know, maybe that's what Diablo is all fucking about. But yeah. But their special thing is like, you have the 4 elemental totems, and you can choose at first one, but then 2 of like the elements to like, or they're called something, I can't remember. Incarnates, I think. Like the incarnates to buff you, and it turns all of your skills to include that thing. So you get the gorilla tag if you choose the gorilla. You get the jaguar tag if you choose the jaguar. Frankly, I don't understand why I would diversify. I'm sure this is in legendaries and stuff like that. Like, there's a good reason for me to be playing with multiple little pieces. But right now, all of the designs seem so sort of insular to themselves that I am just full gorilla. All of my moves are gorilla moves, and I have the 2 gorilla buffs because, wouldn't you fucking know it, they buff my gorilla skills, and my gorilla skills are what I'm trying to make the most powerful. So I don't really know where that ends up. Obviously, I'm not really an end game. I feel like in Endgame you will eventually do that thing where, like, druids have this thing where there's a werebear earth elemental build, and there's a thunder, like a lightning werewolf build, where you're kind of like mixing and matching 2 different sort of things. And I imagine there's going to be stuff like that that's like, oh, when you use a centipede skill, ba ba ba, or when you use a jaguar skill, ba ba ba, kind of thing. But for right now, I have just been going full gorilla and kind of housing everything. Um,
nice.
and that's that.
Yeah, I've been going arbiter form paladin, which I think like I got there on my own, but I think it seems to be the one that a lot of the other paladins I see roaming around use. Um, one of the big things for did you buy the expansion? Have you been fooling around with okay?
I did buy the expansion, but I haven't really done anything. I've just been replaying the story, so I haven't even been doing like Tree of Whisper, caches. I guess I would have to be end game in order to hit
Yeah,
those in the
but
first
like
place. But
the big thing is the Heraldric Seal, but I think you unlock that as part of the campaign, so you might have to
oh,
actually
okay,
get to that part of the campaign.
yeah, that makes sense. I have not hit the jungle, and I have not hit, I guess it's the Isle of Scovos. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is the next place that we're going? Okay.
Scovos is basically like, you know, kind of Greece, right? Like with Hellenic, you know, but it's like Greece
That's cool.
with Amazons. At least it's the vibe
Oh,
I
it's
get
where
from.
the
Yeah,
Amazons are from. That's
yeah.
interesting. And they didn't make an Amazon class because obviously Amazon was in Diablo 3
I
or
would say
Diablo,
like
not 3,
the
2.
the memes on Twitter was like, there was a meeting at like Microsoft headquarters about how you make a male Amazon, right? Like
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah.
yeah.
I also have heard that there's like a lot of there's like a whole thing about how like the Diablo classes kind of like crowd one another out. There's a whole thing about how you can't play a uh like wizard. You can't make a wizard a Diablo 3 wizard or a Diablo 3 witch doctor, because witch doctor is too close to necromancer, wizard is too close to sorcerer, which I don't think is true, frankly. I just kind of think it's like an unimaginative kind of take or whatever. But I would not be surprised if there is someone out there who is like, oh, you can't, this thing is too close to that thing, you can't
Yeah,
make it work or whatever.
I think I'm with you that you could make it work. I just think that the desire from the player base would be is you'd want something a little bit further afield, right? Like, it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like we're Pathfinder, where we've filled out most of the real concepts and we can start filling in the in between spaces with like half measures now. Uh, so but I've been having fun. I basically right now I am at, like, I can steamroll Torment 8 and I can
Cool.
slow clear some of Torment 9, but I can't consistently do it. And so I'm kind of in this, like, you know, space where I, like, pushing the edge of what I can do is kind of frustrating, because it's like, not that it's not easy, it's just like not, it's this thing we've talked about before. It's like the right, the optimal way to play is to, the thing that you can do quickly. Um
Yeah.
uh and uh and also, like, the content can vary by difficulty a little bit widely among the stuff, right? Like
There's the one with like the beams that come out of the guys on YouTube. You will see me doing a little hand gesture. It's kind of like blaze lines
sure.
from Farak or whatever. Those guys fuck my shit up so much more than any other modifier on these goddamn elites, right? Like, I will survive any amount. Part of it is that I'm playing gorilla. Gorilla is kind of the tank build, so like I'm just very rarely ever dropping below maximum hit points because I have barrier and block chance and just like all of this stuff reducing my damage kind of taken. But those guys will just completely, blow my shit up.
Yeah, no, and for me it's the chains. Like, any, like, they're supposed to throw up pylons and, like, do, like, big electrical lines, and if I'm standing in the wrong place, because I'm playing a melee character, right? Like, then it will, like, saw through my HP, like, in nothing, and I will die pretty quickly. But, like, that's not the thing I'm talking about, because, like, open world, like, like, hell tides are it's hard to make them hard, I think. But, like,
Yeah.
there's a couple of specific bosses, like, at the end of a nightmare dungeon escalation chain, you fight, oh, I forget. You forget fight one of the evils, and that one is much harder.
Duriel or on Dariel, maybe one of
Maybe
those two.
he's riding a beast.
Oh, Astaroth,
Yes,
maybe.
Astaroth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, Astaroth is weirdly harder than everything else. Lilith is very hard to solo, but you only have to do that really once in the season. Uh, and But, like pushing the kind of timed content is the stuff that kind of, like, if you're, like, right on the edge of it, right? Like, especially, like, I guess the way that it pushes you to build is pretty, not quite glass cannon, but, like, if I hit a wall where I'm not uh uh where I'm not, like, killing things super fast, and, like, the mechanics are so brutal that, like, a couple fuck ups me to death, right? Like, there's not, like, it's very hard to build tanky such that you can whittle away HP with a lot of forgiveness. And part of it for me is that, like, the controls are not conducive to, like, pinpoint moving, and there's a lot of floor effects. Like, you're not driving your character like in WoW, you're clicking on the ground to move. And uh that can be frustrating because you're relying on pathing, and there's timing specific things.
Yeah.
But it's fun. Part of the reason I'm falling off is because I am at the part of the game where it's um, running the pit to level up my socketables in my Paragon tree, and also running specific, like, I'm killing this boss, I think it's Zur, like over and over again to get a good roll on a unique, I think, amulet. Yeah, a unique amulet, because all my equipment has good rolls, but there's a good effect on this unique that I want, that I need to pull out of, the ether. But like I have not gotten a great roll on it, and so it's farm, get an ancient, try and roll it so that re-roll it using the various mechanics to get a good stat line on it. And if it doesn't have a good stat line, it's like, well, I guess I got to kill the boss a bunch more times. And like, there's other content to do, but it's also like, it's getting very, the game is a grindy game. Like the name of the game is grind, but like,
Yeah.
the other thing I could do is like grind out gem shards until I have enough to make a royal gem, because the royal gems are like I haven't seen one drop. I don't think they do drop, and it's like 1,000,000 shards. And the most shards I've had after like 10-ish hours play is like 200,000. So like it's a maybe that rate goes up a lot higher when you're playing in the the higher like I'm at tournament 8, 9 out of 12. Maybe those drop rates go out, but like it feels like those are like long, that and like the Paragon levels are kind of like your endless grind in the socketables. So
Yeah, it's interesting because I told myself for this season I am going to play the Spearborn, and I'm just going to focus on the story. So I'm not going to do any of like the hardcore grindy shit. But I know that I want to do the hardcore grind stuff. I guess just next season, and I think I have a month left in this season. Hold on. When does the
it's
D4
June something, isn't it?
season? Yeah, it's June something, June 30th. So it's the end of June, right? So I have to get through I have all of June essentially to get through the Vessel of Hatred and the Lord of Hatred campaigns, so that I'm like caught up on the story, and I feel like I can like do this, do this kind of end game content. But I do know that I'm going to swap classes when I do this, because right now my Spiritborn is a seasonal character, but the question is, I'm not really sure what I want to swap to. I've only played my Barbarian to max level, which was obviously my very first character, and then my Druid to max level, which was just another seasonal character I did somewhere in. It wasn't the first season; it was maybe like the third or fourth season of the original D4 release before Vessel of Hatred. And I have touched all of the classes at this point, so I have made I made a necromancer, a rogue, and a sorcerer. The one that I got closest was sorcerer. But I didn't really connect to any of those classes. I might go back to barbarian and just like replay a seasonal barbarian. This is always my favorite class in these games. And I had a really sweet build is the other thing for barbarian. And I wonder if I could like kind of like put it back together. The thing that animates me in Diablo is always just like, am I running cool builds or not? Right? Like over the course of my 50 levels of Spiritborn or whatever the number is, right? I have tried the Gorilla, Jaguar, Eagle, and Centipede builds, and I've ended up with Gorilla partially because it's what dropped for my legendaries, but partially just because it's just kind of my favorite play style to kind of play these like tanky, build up a bunch of block chance and have a thing that procs every time you block. That kind of thing is where my character's at basically. Uh but I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna play next season. But next season I'm just gonna do the normal grind, the Tree of Whispers and all of that kind of stuff again. Like doing Hell Tides and all of the rest of it instead of, grinding out the story again.
Yeah, no, I mean if let me know when you're done with the story, because I want to talk to you about it, because there's some, I don't hate the story, but there's some like thoughts I have to talk about at the end.
Very cool. I'm excited for it. But partially, one of the things I liked about Diablo 4 is it steers clear of a lot of maybe what I would call traps in Diablo lore. In a certain sense, Diablo 3 did this, right? Where like it was focused on the character of Diablo and just kind of a little too much about, what this one kind of like demon is doing and how all that sort of works. And I'm a big Diablo 3 defender. I think Diablo 3 is a good story told well, all the rest of that kind of stuff. But I kind of like that D4 is focused on not, the the dynamics of Tyrael and Imperius and the primevals. You're interacting with Mephisto, but he's not the main bad guy. He just kind of shows up a couple of times to kind of like fuck with you. Obviously, I'm sure this is going to be very different when you get to Vessel and Lord of Hatred, which are much more sort of Mephisto focused. Um, and you're focusing on characters like Inarius and Lorath and Donan and stuff like that, and they have their little, the thing with Donan's kid. I remember being, I had sort of forgotten how that story played out, and I found myself like hit by it again, which was when I originally played that story. I thought to myself, boy, I have never seen a character who's gonna die more than fucking Donan, who's a little bit of an asshole, and he has this young, whatever, upstart kid who means the best or whatever. And I thought that this was going to be a story of Donan dies and passes the story, like his legacy to Yorin or whatever. And it's like, no, it's actually the opposite of that. Yorin, the child, dies and he shouldn't have, and he was innocent and he was a good guy. And sometimes the good guys fucking lose, and your kind of asshole dad who more deserved to die narratively is the one who kind of survives or whatever. And just like, oh man, what a world, right? Like where, you can play through a whole story however many years ago and then kind of forget the way that you got bamboozled by a plot twist twice.
Yeah, I feel like there was a complaint that I know that when D3 was in development, there was a complaint that like they had wowified the graphics or whatever, right? Like that, it
Yeah.
was too bright and too happy. And it feels to some level like the lesson they took from that was like in D4, no one is ever allowed to be happy. That is anathema, right? Like, everything must be bad forever, right? Like,
Yep.
With like, momentary exceptions to that. And this is part of why I want to talk to you about the end of this end of the story, because it, I won't say anything because I don't want to spoil anything. But I don't think it's bad. But it's like there's just like the status of things at the end of the game is interesting to me. So
Okay, cool. One of the things that I think is also interesting about it is that like it is so focused on kind of like hell and stuff like that. One of the things I thought was an interesting move D4, the base game of D4 is that you don't go to the high heavens, you don't learn what Imperius is up to, you don't talk to Tyrael or Oriel or whatever, any of that kind of stuff. And I kind of liked one of the other things that I'm a big defender of in D3 is the go from Diablo to Malthael as like, like villain A to villain B kind of thing. Like the first villain is, oh, here is the primeval of terror, the namesake of the game itself, right? Like all of this other kind of stuff. But in Reaper of Souls, you are fighting kind of the Grim Reaper, but he's not really the Grim Reaper. He's really this archangel of wisdom who wants to destroy the world for esoteric reasons and kind of all of the rest of that. And I'm kind of hoping that they open up new sort of corners of Diablo lore. So that is I guess I don't think this is going to happen because it's called Lord of Hatred. I imagine it is about the primevals. But my hope would be that they are setting up a way that we could not be as focused on fucking, Diablo and Baal and Mephisto and those guys, and kind of touch on other aspects of the lore that are like interesting or I don't know. That's my called shot. That's my not quite called shot. That's my hope. No spoilers. Is that's where things end up.
yeah, it's interesting because, and this is not a spoiler because we know this. I think at the end of this campaign, it's like I think at the end of the D3 campaign, right? It's like we are, like Sanctuary is not supposed to exist, right? Like, and so
Yeah.
like this is a thing that like I will make fun of it in WoW, and I will make fun of it here too. It's like actually heaven's bad, right? Like
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
yeah,
At the end of D3, there's a whole thing about how Imperius is really fucking pissed that Nephilim can kill an archangel, right? Like he had thought of, I mean, he originally voted against leaving Sanctuary alive because when they discovered Sanctuary, the five angels took a vote on whether or not to leave it around, and it was Tyrael, Oriel, and God, I can't remember the third one. who voted to keep it around. Malthael, I think, was already gone by that point, and Imperius was like, "No, we can't leave this around." If the end of, if there's stuff with D4 about like Imperius coming back and being like, "I fucking hate Sanctuary,"
Well,
and humans, I think that would be awesome.
yeah. So there's nothing about that directly, but like the whole kind of theme is that like Lilith and Daenerys did this thing in secret, and
Yeah.
you know even if Tyrael is nice, right? Like or some of these angels are nice. They most of the angels don't actually they don't care. Like it is not like the real world where the lore the lore and the capital C canon is that God in heaven loves us and created us and we are his beloved creation. It's these two fuckwits fucked around and fuck shit up, right? Like, and so like heaven doesn't feel the obligation to sanctuary like theoretically the Christian heaven feels towards earth, or like the Abrahamic
Yeah.
heaven feels towards earth.
Yeah, there's this thing that somebody said about Diablo lore, which is hell is evil and the heavens are neutral, which is, I think, like there's no good in Diablo, or Chris Metzen said that. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Whatever. I am deeply excited to go deeper. I have a lot of love, like I said, for Diablo lore. Even though they are copying one of my favorite plot points, which is Firebrand Crusaders. They're not called the Everflame Crusade. They're kind of a lot like the Everflame Crusade. These, whatever, burning knights, like overzealous fire knights that they have there. Good for them, kind of thing.
Have you done the second campaign yet?
Fire Guides. No, I have not. I started, and
Okay.
so I have met Urivar, and I watched him burn somebody alive, and that's it. So, but I where that kind of stuff is going.
Right. I mean, do you know what's up with our friend Akarat? But
I don't, and
okay.
I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
there, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of fire guidesing, we started a new D&D campaign, Ripples in the Sand, which we've met twice now. The very first session was you guys going in your wagon train to meet Takeja, and the second session was about rescuing some kids who got shot down. Some kids in an ornithopter get shot down in the desert, and you have to go rescue them from orcs. So yeah, I don't know. You want to talk about Ripples in the Sand?
Yeah.
What do
No,
you want to say?
I just want to like one. I've been having a blast with it. I think I was telling you for the cast. I think that first encounter was a banger. I think everybody around the table, including you, is finally starting to like fully get their hands around what Pathfinder is. I also think it's more like a kind of classic campaign in that like Rats of the Walls was fun, but there was a lot of like talky for like a long time, and it's was a RP heavy campaign, which kind of sucked for Low Kicks, who built like Deathmaster 3000, and like it's like, can we kill some? It's like, no, we have to talk to
we have to keep talking.
we have to keep talking to Mrs. Stosbottom, right?
Yeah, that's very true. It's funny because obviously I can't plan these out, right? In the sense of like I know which of the campaigns are sort of I don't know what I would call this. Maybe classic, traditional versus iconoclast or something like that, right? Like Rats in the Walls is a heterodox D&D campaign that is not set up like a normal D&D campaign. It is dependent on you guys to follow leads and figure stuff out on your own, right? Obviously, we had a whole podcast where like I expected you to get in the tunnels on day one, session one. You watch the rat go into the tunnels, and you guys never investigated that. And it's like, oh well, I guess we're gonna go set a dumpster on fire or whatever Josh ended up doing. And like you got there, and I think solving that mystery and unraveling the conspiracy, all that kind of stuff was like authentically cool and fun because it wasn't just handed to you. It's not the kind of thing where it's the opposite of being sort of on rails. But Ripples in the Sand has a little bit of rails to it, right? Like I always knew session 1 was there are these two kids in an ornithopter. The ornithopter goes down, and you guys have to go out and the quicksand thing. You know, you go out to the quicksand, and you have to rescue the kids from sort of the ornithopter. I did fuck this up. I will say for the record, I was telling Rachel about this yesterday, because the mechanic was supposed to be on turn 0 a die goes in the tension pool. You roll the tension pool to see if the kids fall into the thing. But I forgot to do that on the very first turn, so I did it on the second turn. And technically, I was trying to math it out so that the odds is at least one of the kids fell into the thing on turn 3 because if you think about it, turn 1 you have 1 dice, turn 2 you have 2 more dice, turn 3 you'll have 6 dice, and then you'll roll a 1 and one of the into the thing. But it didn't fucking matter because on turn 2 Rachel rolled snake eyes and both kids fell into the quicksand at the same time. And it's like, well, I guess that's just dice. Dice tell stories.
Yeah, no, dice tell stories, and random character generation quirks. It's like, oh yeah, the Tortolan's immune to quicksand, like 100% of the time.
That was also true. I didn't I guess I would say this. I did not plan for any of you guys to get sucked into the quicksand, but I do know what happens if you get sucked into the quicksand. And there's also the perception. This is the other thing that is a dice tell story thing, is every time something gets sucked into the quicksand, you get to roll perception checks to see what happens. And you guys kept failing that perception check. So it's supposed to sort of like offer a clue or a hint. What's happening here with this quicksand and stuff like that? And no, you didn't get those, but hey, that's the sacred contract for you.
That's the way the cookie crumbles, right?
Yeah. I did this with the Scarecrow King as well. There's this whole thing in the Scarecrow King. They enter into the town. There's a massacre. This is very Diablo lore now that I think about it. There's a massacre in the town, the Mayflower Massacre. It's a big festival in the town. All of the townsfolk, get fucking like murdered. And you guys go into the town. It's 2 weeks later. They're cultists and all this other sort of stuff. And you walk into the town square and there are still bodies and stuff like that. But one of the things, a big detail that the players sat and investigated is there is a gallows, and hanging from the gallows is a warforged body. There is a rope that has been cut. So somebody was hung, but they were cut down. And then there are 2 of these like monstrous mutations where somebody gets they've seen this happen a couple of times, where their jaw gets really, like, their bottom jaw gets really long, and their whole body sort of like elongates. They have these long spindly kind of claws, and there were 2 of those things that were hanging from the gallows. Then they went into the chapel, like into this little church, and in the church there's a boss fight, all this other sort of stuff. And there was a perception check while they were doing stuff in the church to glance outside and see that one of those guys with the mouth hanging down was gone from the gallows. Ooh, spooky. You thought he was dead, but he was actually alive, and now there's this monster out there, kind of thing. But they kept failing the perception check. So I just kept being like, well, I guess you're spending more time in the chapel. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. All right. Okay, different 2 people. Roll perception to see if you can see. And eventually, finally, we got them to see that the gallows, this thing in the gallows had like lost and broken down. And they were like, well, I guess we're going to the catacombs. So anyway, it's funny of like designing things to be hit by perception checks, and then they don't get hit by perception checks. But there you go.
Yeah, for sure. Was there anything else? Oh, so fun little piece of trivia. I was going through some of my like the commander deck that I took apart, the Ragnarok deck that I took apart, and I realized that Honest Arvy, who is a character that I ran in a one shot for a different group before, and I adapted to this campaign. I realized that Takeshi is directly a Magic character. Honest Harvey is actually based on a Magic character as well. Can you guess who it is?
Oh, and it's got to be green black would be Ragnarok's characters or Ragnarok's colors. What is a green-black character that has a big arsenal of weapons?
It's not mechanically. He has it's kind of like the image in my head. Um
Oh, interesting. Huh. What would be in that green-black deck then? Maybe like Chevrolet Bane of Monsters or whatever? He's like the bounty hunter guy, but he has a bunch of weapons on his back. Do you know who I'm talking about?
he's got 2 cards and one of them has the word honest in it.
Rutstein?
Yeah,
Is it?
honest Rutstein.
Yeah.
Honest
Yeah,
Rutstein,
yeah,
old
yeah, yeah,
Rutstein, right? Like that. It's like
yeah.
it's just kind of like I saw that I was like, oh, and I was going through. It was like, oh, that was kind of like the image, right? Like of like old Rutstein is like what was in my head when I designed the character. Old Rutstein specifically is the art because he's kind of got like that like grave digger kind of aspect to him.
Yeah. Oh, I totally see this. Yeah. God, what the fuck is that guy? Chevril? Chevril? It's like something Bane of Monsters. Bane of Monsters and TG. What's this guy's name? Cheville Bane of Monsters is maybe what I was thinking about. I guess he just has this like one monster hunter sword though. He doesn't really have as much of an arsenal as I had originally thought.
No, but that makes sense. But yeah, but yeah, like I said, I was going through those cards, and I was like, oh, that is like kind of what put the idea in my head, and I have been working on maybe putting together a mini for him on like Hero Forge or something. I might actually try doing something a little bit more advanced, which is like, I know there are a lot of AI haters in the audience, but like you can generate the AI art, and then there's another program that will let you like generate a 3D model off of it. I know it works pretty well for like bigger, blockier things. I don't know if it would work great for like a detailed miniature. Like the ones I've tried to do with just text prompts were not great. But I actually recently watched a video of the generated a bunch of views of this character and then ran it through this specific website with the images as the basis, like with different, and it came up with a pretty solid model. And so I might try and see if I can get that going, just because I think it's an interesting idea. Because like the thing I have found with Hero Forge and Eldritch Foundry, which are my 2 standard ones, is I can't quite get exactly what I want. Like the Hero Forge is a little too cartoony for my tastes.
I do feel that with Hero Forge.
And Eldritch Foundry weirdly does not do like this pot belly thing that I want for him super well, right? Like he kind of like, you can make him a little fat, but like Hero Forge gets the pot belly, but like also at the bigger sizes, like the armor and the clothing starts to distort a little bit because of the cartoony style. And so it's like, I'm gonna see if I can get something a little bit more on my in the way I want it.
Yeah. Well, listen, I believe in you. The one thing that I'm not loving about Ripples in the Sand is that it is bi-weekly now, which I knew I was going to hate this, and it turns out that, yep, in fact, I do hate this, right? Like having to sort of swap between. It's funny because when I'm doing both games inside of a week, I didn't have any trouble sort of swapping between the Scarecrow King and at the time it was, Rats in the Walls, right? But I'm having much more trouble now, even though I have, halved my workload, just because taking 1 week away from a thing is different than taking 2 weeks away. And you just like, it just erodes the little details in my mind. And I had to like go and check my notes. I was like, oh, what is the name of the kid who's like the fucking main character that you guys spent all of the first session with and talking to? What did I name him? Oh, right, Lebrin. It's like, I should not be forgetting the names of main characters like that.
Yeah, no, I feel. I mean, I don't know if I've joked about this on the cast or joked about the podcast. When we miss a week, I forget how to do everything, right? Like it's similar type of thing, I think, which makes me sad too, but I get it, right? I think part of this was like requirements from some of the other players, right? Like that.
Yeah, it is about the the Scarecrow King game, Wednesdays just kind of fell off because of work reasons for one of the players. And so it just turned out that Monday night was kind of the only other night that really like worked for us. And also, friend of the cast, Sarian, had said that he didn't want to do weekly, but he did want to do bi-weekly. So it was a way to get him back in the game and stuff like that. It's just like, whatever. We play with the hands we're dealt.
Yeah.
But I am hoping that we can get back into a weekly cadence. Because the other thing is that we're actually skipping the next session, I think, because I'm going to be away. No, maybe not. I can't remember. We're skipping one session. There's one session's coming up because I'm going to be at my sister's wedding. And it's like when you're meeting every week and you skip a session, that's not that bad because you go from one week off to 1 week on. But when you skip a session on bi-weekly, you are putting a month between sessions, which is brutal, I find.
Yeah,
so,
I feel like we should try and like adjust to one of the off weeks or something. Like see if we can make do a substitute session somewhere, because it does suck to go for like a whole month without it. And I might miss a session in July because I'm going to be in North Carolina with Caroline's parents and whatnot. So that all kind of sucks.
Yeah, I definitely wanna to figure some of that stuff out. But yes, I'm deeply excited with Ripples in the Sand. I also think the other thing about Ripples in the Sand that's fun is that the enemies are different. These are orcs. Rachel has seen orcs because there's a little bit of orc stuff that happened in 7th Expedition, which was not even combat. They didn't. So if you there's this inside joke that we will make to one another, which is you think me am stupid, which is a reference to an orc that I introduced in 7th Expedition as essentially a vendor, right? Like I needed a character who was running around selling research objects in order for my research subsystem in that game to kind of like work appropriately. And I typified that subsystem as an orcish sort of like, he is a vendor of tchotchkes, and so he runs around with his little wagon or whatever, and he will buy your expired research items, which is say research items that you have exhausted for the cool information, and he will exchange them for new ones, kind of thing. But the players just really fucking loved the idea of this orc who loved his tchotchkes. But there was a lot of hullabaloo about the fact that this orc spoke common. But to him, he just speaks orcish because he doesn't understand that common and orcish are different languages. He just understands that he's an orc and orcs speak orcish. So that language is orcish, not common. And that whole bit was very fun and everybody loved it. And I don't know. I'm excited that we get to do orc stuff, going forward.
I am too. They're fun orcs too. Like they're like Warhammer orcs, right?
Yeah, they are much more like Warhammer orcs, I would say, than I don't know, like Warcraft orcs or sort of anything along those lines, right? Like they kind of have that mad technology thing. They're another sort of group that can use power crystals, and they use them to make these Mad Max machines because I don't know. I thought that's cool. That's the thing I like. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
What else do we want to talk about? You want to talk about The Boys?
Yeah, why don't you finish? I've only been consuming internet discourse, so why don't you?
Okay, so I watched all of The Boys recently, mostly because I don't know, it was coming to an end, and my friends were talking about it, and I had watched the first 3 seasons a long time ago, or not a long time ago, but kind of recently, and so I wanted to sort of finish it off when the game or when the show ended, because this was sort of the final season. The finale was bad. The Boys is a bad show, but it has always been a bad show. It was never a good show. It sort of looked like a good show in season 1. It kind of like gestured toward being a good show in season 1, but then I don't think it was, and it definitely wasn't in season 2, 3, 4, or 5. That said, it is actually quite a lot of fun, to be honest with you. I think that people who are watching The Boys in the same way that one might watch Game of Thrones or The Sopranos or, Breaking Bad, these kind of like prestige TV shows are kind of making a mistake. You sort of got to watch The Boys the way you watch like Arrow or something. Just some dog shit, but that is like kind of cool and cool and entertaining in the sort of way that, I mean, the guy who made Supernatural, obviously, show, Eric Kripke, which everybody talks a lot about. Supernatural and The Boys are deeply pretty similar shows in the sense that they are kind of dumb and not very smart, but it sort of doesn't matter. You're just kind of along for the ride. I actually think that the final season was weirdly an improvement. Season 4 is actually the worst fucking season. And it is the worst season for just kind of like a bunch of dumb reasons. There's a lot about the universe of The Boys that really doesn't make any sense in terms of like sort of world building logic. Frankly, I think this also hits season 1. The idea that there has been a massive conspiracy around giving injections to babies to give them superpowers, and nobody knew about this. Nobody ever talked about it. Like, I just find that deeply unbelievable. The fact that it came out as a
Mr.
scandal.
Ironclad suspension of disbelief, man.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. There's just something. It's not just that. If it is just that, I think I'm okay. I'm okay with this idea.
Sure.
Even though it just run contrary, right? Like, one of the things that we know about conspiracies is that people tell about them, right?
Right.
The reason that conspiracies they come unraveled given enough time, because when you have big conspiracies with a lot of people who are part of them, they will say, I was deep throat or whatever else kind of thing. Anyway, the fact that there's a conspiracy is just one thing, and then the conspiracy is shown to the public and kind of touted before the public, and nothing really comes of it. They still keep doing this thing of like superhero movies and like Homelander or whatever, and it's just like, that is just not how that would go. That's just not realistic. Like, this also broke my ironclad suspension of disbelief. All of the boys spend the entirety of season 2 as criminals, as fugitives from the law. And then at the end of season 2, they're kind of, I guess, sort of exonerated, but they don't just get exonerated, they start working for the CIA domestically, which is also not how the CIA works, for the record. And I don't know why it's the CIA instead of the FBI. I think in the books it was, or in the comic books it was like the FBI. It's just like, all of these things just annoy the fuck out of me, and I'm never going to be get on board with that kind of stuff. Season 3 ended up being the best season just because it introduced a character who's a lot of fun, Soldier Boy. Soldier Boy is kind of the Captain America analog in the Boys, but he's kind of a little bit Captain America, a little bit Superman, in the fact that he's like essentially kind of invulnerable or whatever. And in season 5, Soldier Boy comes back. So he becomes, he kind of gets integrated into the story again, and he's just a fun, awesome, interesting character who does cool and fun and awesome stuff in the like in the story. And so he kind of made it a little bit of a ride, but it just kind of ended in a place I would consider to be pretty unsatisfying. Lou in the chat says, are you sure the public wouldn't care about horrible acts, waves a hand at the actual world? That is fair. I mean, there are other plot points that come up. I don't know how much you care if I spoil The Boys, Mango.
I don't care at all. I'm pretty well spoiled on it.
At the end of season 3 of The Boys, a guy throws an empty beer can at Homelander, and Homelander heat visions him in the face and kills him. And then that is the end of the season. And it is like treated as this cliffhanger where Homelander has this like very rabid sort of like fan base, and he has just murdered somebody in front of them, but they all thought it was awesome and they clapped and they cheered him on and all of this other kind of stuff. You maybe saw some levels of this was like used in memes for sort of a while. It gives you this promise that season 4 is going to be about like Homelander is going to go on trial for murder or something like that. But all of that is wrapped up in the first episode completely painlessly. And it's like that kind of stuff that I found to be really dissatisfying, right? Like, actions just kind of didn't have consequences in the story of the sort of wider world, which, I don't know, just sort of bothered me. And there was also just like a lot of stuff that was just sort of stupid on on like a conceptual level. When I was talking with people about it, we all just kind of did that thing that you do where you're sitting in a voice chat and everybody is kind of like parsing through the fridge logic of the stuff that bothers you. So for instance, in the final fight with Homelander, right, like they're all just kind of fighting, like duking it out in the in the Oval Office. First of all, they've had that fight before. Second of all, Homelander is more powerful now than he was before, but he was doing worse in that fight than when he did that same fight with basically the same group of people at the end of season 3. And it's just like all of that stuff was sort of stupid and kind of lame. The Deep has a very weird death that's kind of poetic but doesn't really make sense if you think about like the nature of the powers that are involved in this kind of stuff, and also just kind of boggles belief in the first place because of just like Washington D.C. is not a coastal city, so the idea that you're fighting in Washington D.C. and then next to the ocean, like stuff like that doesn't make sense. It's just like I don't think any of that stuff matters in real. These are all minor complaints, but when you're sitting in the voice chat after the final season making these complaints and everybody keeps compounding one on top of the other, it at a certain point kind of hits a critical. But anyway, my whole point is that The Boys is a bad show and was always a bad show, but it's kind of fun and, sort of worth it if you treat it not like a good show, but if you treat it like a bad show. So that's my recommendation for people. Pretend you're watching, I don't know, Smallville or something, just like some dog shit CW show that nobody thinks of as good, instead of pretending that it's an HBO show, and you'll have a good time.
Okay. Yeah. No, I fell off after the second season.
Yeah, treat it like bubblegum. Yeah.
And I have see no reason to put myself through 3 seasons for whatever that is. Yeah. Sure.
It was a lot of fun to watch while I was playing Vampire Crawlers, I guess is what I would say. I watched the entirety of that show while playing Vampire Crawlers on my other screen, and that was a plus time. I guess I beat Vampire Crawlers is the other thing.
Was it worth it?
I don't know, man. Was it? I mean, it was only like $8 or something. It was
Sure.
not that expensive, but how
Was
much
it worth
time?
your
I put
time?
20.
Is
I put 23 hours into it. I was very good at it at the end. I did a lot of things that felt personally very like clever and satisfying to like win games, which is fun, even though it's obviously sort of like a single player game. I'm sure that I'm not anything special or whatever. The game also really punishes infinites, which is interesting because I think people really like infinites in roguelike deck builders. It's one of the things that's creating a controversy for Slay the Spire
Spire
now.
2,
Slay the
yeah.
Spire is that
The
mixed reviews because they
Chinese
released
don't like that they made the infinites harder or something, is my understanding.
yeah, that's literally it. The idea of people getting mad at a single player balance patch is kind of insane to me, but also at the same time I kind of get it. I don't know. I've seen this actually play out in a bunch of different places. It's not just like a roguelike deck builder thing. It plays out with Total War all of the time. People talk about it's so wild. People talk about power creep for Total War Warhammer 3 factions that like come out and are part of a DLC and they get like big powerful rules or whatever. And I actually I kind of get it. Yeah, like it's a single player game. It doesn't matter. You're playing the computer, like there's no you would think that these things would kind of be cordoned off to multiplayer, but they're not. They're single player, and I think that that's kind of wild, but very interesting. Same thing happened with EU5. EU5 came out, excellent game. It was my game of the year last year, but I actually fell off because they ruined my playthrough with balance patches. Because I had built up, if you think about this kind of thing, I mean, how many hours? I maybe had 50 hours or something in EU5. I played a couple of hours of EU5, and then I played a couple of hours of EU5 and then I went really deep on that. I have 45 hours. So I spent about 5 hours, let's say, on that first run, and then my second run, I put 40 hours into it. I got 250 years or whatever. I was like in the 1600s. I guess it's actually 300 years because I think you start in the 1300s. But whatever. And I had built my whole economy in this one way, and they basically nerfed that because it was the best. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, my whole, this is worthless now. Like, well, I was building my nation to be funded in this way, and because they changed the way this stuff works, I am now no longer in a strong sort of position. I would have to spend a bunch of resources to try and recoup, but I'm sure I probably could come back from that kind of thing. I don't know. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. Weirdly, single player balance patches, I kind of get the outrage a little.
Sure. Yeah. No. I don't know. That's part of this is why I like say Crusader Kings. Because like you can just get fucked by the RNG in the first place. So like if the balance patch changes, it's like okay, whatever, right? Like I'll adapt. Um, but I definitely feel that. Yeah, I get not liking a balance change. I don't get review bombing a game over, which is what happened with Slay the Spire.
Boy, yeah, I
Yeah,
get that too. Yeah. Civ 7 just released a big patch.
that
That
undid the kind of
is,
marquee feature.
yeah, I don't know. A feature that I like and that I think is good, but people hate it. And so they released this test of time patch. My understanding is that the sentiment is quite positive around the test of time patch, but if I go to Civ 7, do I think I'm going to find uh do I think I'm going to find very positive reviews? I'm gonna say fucking no. Yeah, it is still mixed. It is still 50% mixed. They are never climbing out of that hole. Is really the problem here for Civ 7. I just don't think it's possible for them to sort of turn it around without some really kind of crazy sort of heavy lifting. Oh, yeah, the whole Steam page is like dedicated to this thing. You can start and stay as one Civ, you customize your evolution along that line. They've changed the way victory points work. I actually think this is the more important change. This is in my mind the note under the note. I don't actually think that staying as the same Civ matters to most people, but it is in like actual gameplay terms, but it is kind of the, I don't know, the marquee way that people were sort of playing. I don't know. I intend to go back to it at some point, but I don't even know when I'm gonna find the time.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
I weirdly played quite a lot of Civ, to be honest. How much Civ 7 did I play when it came out last year? I played 59 hours of Civ 7, and it was over the course of a couple of different games. So, I don't know. I'll get back into it at a certain point, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. I've never. I don't think I even bought Civ 7. It's uh I just didn't care. Like, I moved on to, I think we talked about this. I moved on to Paradox Games for that part of my desire.
Yeah, I kind of I think I agree. I have played a good amount of Civ 7, Civ 6, and I enjoyed some of that stuff, but I don't know. I mean, I obviously played less of EU5, and I was annoyed by this thing that happened in EU5 or whatever else, but I much more enjoyed my time with EU5 than I think I did with Civ 7.
Makes sense. Um, yeah. Um, well, on other things, there's a couple of directions I could go now. I think I'm going to go
Sure.
to Titanium Court, which is this game that I got because have you heard of this?
Yeah, fellow
Okay.
traveler, friends of ours.
Okay. No, so I think it's Adam Millard. One of the YouTubers I follow does like a for like he usually does a games you should have played in like 2025 or whatever, but he's been doing it every month for this year. And Titanium Court was one of those games, and I was like, this looks fun, and I love it. It is it's not like a game I will play every day, but it is like it's the base mechanics are like a match 3 game, but like so the you are a person who got lost in the woods and came upon this Fey court, and they announced that you are the queen of the Fey court, and you have to lead them to war against the other Fey courts. Um, and so the main kind of loop is you match 3, But the match 3 gains you resources, but it's also setting up the battlefield, and you could like in what's called high tide, which is the match 3 portion. Um, you can set up the battlefield, and you can also like match your enemies away, and they will like disappear. But like enemies might fall in off the top, like in any other match 3 game. And so when you have done enough of that, when you've done enough moves, um, it goes to low tide, and in low tide, um, the you set up, you do a little bit of setup. You set up automated units to move around, and your units go out to attack other units, and enemy units come in to attack you. And there's different rules about how the different terrain works, because the things you are matching are like forests and and like fields and mountains and water, and what units can move across what, and like how, and you can also gather stuff out of it. It's a super fun, compelling little loop. But the thing that really shines about it is that it is a weird fucking game, right? Like, Puck is like your main advisor. He's dressed in a business suit. There's this thing about how like they all think that cars are mythical creatures. There's like a bunch of like weird goof, like like there's an egg and on the field that you adopt, and everybody insists is a football, and that you have to like if it stays on the map with you from map to map, and if it dies, you take a pretty severe penalty for it. But if you beat a run with it, then you have successfully scored a touchdown, and like there's a whole thing to do. And like at one point, somebody sells you a love potion, and there's a moment it's like, wait, so this is gonna like make me forcefully fall in love with another person? I don't know if I'm good at it. It's like, oh no, that'd be weird. This potion makes you love baseball, and so it's just like, and so and like it take and so like I literally just hit this part. Like it takes a couple of runs to actually like get the effect out of it, but a foreign dignitary comes to the court and starts like trying to psych you out by telling you everybody's going to eventually die in this very weird thing. It's like around now the potion of the potion of loving baseball kicks in, and it's like all throughout your life you've had like flashes of like violence in your mind, and you thought that was just part of the background and that's been replaced by the crack of the bat and the soar of the ball, right? And like everything's gonna be great, right? Like it is such a weird and unique kind of experience. Also, I think this is gonna be a weird kind of parallel, but I have caught up on the Dresden Files. I have finished the last book that is currently out that came out earlier this year, and there is a kind of overlap in humor and like so the Dresden Files is urban fantasy by some definition. Harry Dresden is a private eye who is also a wizard who lives in Chicago, and there's a whole bunch of stuff there. But like the Fae Courts play a very important role in that story, and there's a bunch of kind of like, oh, these are these ancient powers and they're interfacing with the modern world, and there's a it's a noir style story, but there is humor there, and that I think there's like a good parallel to to Titanium Court. I think, not this like it intersects in an interesting way. It's not the same thing, but I think it's interesting. So I have been having a ton of fun with that, and I would highly recommend it.
Okay, I have thought about it because obviously I know about it because it comes from these friends of ours, fellow traveler, and it's also just like the fucking weirdest game. Their scene page is insane. It does some very clever things that I quite like. I don't know. Weird game, and I just want to know more, but I haven't actually pulled the trigger. I haven't pulled the trigger yet.
If you'll allow me, I will also talk very briefly about a second game, which is Dennis Disco, which I've been raving about for the past week. Just in early access. There's not a lot of main content there yet. If you're looking for kind of like the polished story, I wouldn't jump in. But the key thing is you can import your own songs. And I fooled around with a couple different songs, and like I don't think it works as well on the slower songs. But I was about to be like, okay, that was a good session, and it was like, wait a second. I know I have Through the Fire and the Flames on this PC. I loaded up Through the Fire and the Flames. It's a 200 BPM song. It's very easy to sync because, like, some of the other songs I was trying to sync up were a little bit harder, right? Like the BPM online wasn't like it's rare that like the BPM is exactly what you can find online, and you have to like set the offset pretty perfectly. But through the Fire and the Flames, 200 BPM flat, and like the beat signals in the waveform are strong enough you can just kind of immediately line it up. And by God, it is like some of the most pure fun I have had in a long time. Like it is like everything 15-year-old Mango wanted out of video games. It's like you are beating people. Like I have gone over before how I love like kind of like music kind of fight scenes, or like like the Quicksilver scenes in the X-Men movies,
Oh, in
right?
those X-Men movies, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Or Baby Driver would be a good
yeah,
example, right?
yeah, stuff. Or like there's some of it in John Wick too. It's not quite as like tied to the music, but like or it's tied to the music, but the music isn't quite as forefront. But like just beating people up to on the beat and do the Final Flames is just like, oh, this is so good. This is so perfect. I absolutely love it. It's a great time. I highly recommend it to anybody. I don't know, like I don't know how much legs playing that one song is going to have, because it's not quite like say DDR, where excuse me, um where like you could theoretically perfect it. It's kind of like the better you do, the more waves you get to face type of deal.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if I could just keep playing it over and over again. But I think I have played through all of the available levels, and they are fun. And I think once the full game is out, I will very much enjoy it, especially once it gets enough uptake that like people will like have. I'm sure that in like 6 months to a year, or like after 1.0 release, there will be a bunch of people online that will say this is what the BPM is, this is what the offset is. If you use like the kind of standard album version of this, go forth and play this immediately. And I think that'll be a great time.
I get that. I get that for sure. Um, yeah, I know Dead of Disco or Dead as Disco, because they like completely torched Steam Next Fest. I think it was 2 or 3 Steam Next Fest ago. They were just like the number one thing. They got like 100,000 wish lists or something. Just some truly insane kind of numbers. But I like but I don't know. I like the vibes of it a lot. Say I think that the vibes of it are very cool and sort of interesting. Um, I don't know that I'll end up ever like cracking it open, but who knows? We'll see. It's weird that it's an early access game. I did not expect to hear that, to be honest with you.
My guess is that they didn't want like all that hype from the demo to fall off before too much time had passed.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Because like it is pretty rough right now. Like and they like had like a pretty sizable patch between when I first booted up and like yesterday when I played it again. Um, but it is not in like I would say it's not in a great state. It needs a little bit
Okay.
more time for the core stuff, for not for the core, for like the story mode, for like just like beating stuff up to the beat. It probably needs like a balance pass, but like for some like raw fun, it's fine, right? Um like
Yeah.
I don't think I will go back to it for a little while, just because uh I don't think the systems are deep enough yet to be worth it. But um and there's some cool stuff in the single player stuff, but in the kind of auto generated self music, uh, after a couple of songs you get to, oh, it's just kind of the same thing, right? Like there's not as much variety there. So
Okay. Yeah. I see that. Do you want to talk about Commander? You had a Commander thing that you
so
wanted to bring up.
this is just kind of like the commander thing was in one of our group chats. Somebody said, "Why do you guys play commander instead of standard?" And it's in front of the cast Zhao, social media manager of the cast Zhao, who, you know,
So you want to answer on the record for Zhao so that we can like I don't know,
I
set
would
the
say
record straight a little bit.
in his very acerbic ways, like, did you have too many players, or are you just too much of a coward to play a real deck, or something like that? Like the way that he does. Um, But I do think that's an interesting question, right? Like, why is Commander the most
Yeah,
popular
I have a
format in
bunch
Magic?
of answers to this question. Do you just want me to go first?
Yeah,
How do
go for it.
Okay, so my answer to this question is very straightforward. I think that the game itself of Magic, like true 60 card, straightforward, straight up 1v1 Magic, is too consistent for sort of its own good. Which is to say, so if you look at a typical Magic deck, 60 cards, right? 20 to 24 of those are going to be lands, so cut those out, right? You have 36 to 40 cards um, that are going to be in your deck. You can have up to 4 cards in your deck. So at
4 copies of the same card.
if you sorry, 4 copies of the same card in your deck. So really, your deck kind of is really kind of a 10 card deck with lots of redundancy. This is not quite true, actually. If you look at most deck lists, they have ones of, twos of, threes of, fours of, right? Like not every card is a 4 of card. I would probably say that the real number is probably kind of 12 to 16 or something, right? Like unique cards kind of in an individual deck. But the point of 60 card Magic is to create a consistent kind of fundamentally refined sort of play experience. Commander, because it is a 100 card singleton format, is much more about the sort of the variance of the different cards that you have access to in your deck. But it's also about some other stuff too that kind of comes with that, which is this thing of kind of engine building. Right. One of the things you can do in single player Magic is you just play a bunch of beaters and lightning bolts and you burn somebody out. You just kill them. You just kill them. Right. You play VV Orniteer and a bunch of cantrippy draw cards, and you hit for 1 every single time, and you pop off on big combo turns and do lots of damage and win the game sort of that way. Those sorts of engines, just like you need to set them up better. You need to do more with them. You need to make more happen in order to put all of that sort of together. And so that's kind of reason number sort of reason number 2, right? That like it is driven towards bigger value engine based gameplay because you have more life total to work through, right? You have to kill 120 points of your opponent's lives compared to whatever. 3 is the politics of multiplayer. Obviously, you can do multiplayer with 60 card. Nobody does this, but you can. The politics of multiplayer, I think, is maybe the most fun and interesting, just because it does a couple of things. Number 1, it creates this entertaining dynamic where different people are getting focused in different sorts of ways to sort of reach a kind of viable conclusion. And that's just something that doesn't exist in sort of 60, like 60 card, is this ability to sort of sit there and negotiate with someone or save a piece of removal for a big scary thing when it is coming at me versus the big scary thing going at my opponent, right? Like I can attack with the big scary thing, and if it hits Sarian, I don't need to kill it because whatever, it's hitting one of my opponents. That kind of stuff I think is interesting, unique. Those are 3. And then number 4 would be the act of having a commander, 1 guaranteed card. It's effectively in your hand kind of at all times. It allows you to build decks with like around that theme, both on a vibes level and on a mechanics level, right? My Takasia deck, which obviously I am now famous for. Takasia is a really awesome, flavorful card, right? Takasia says creatures you control get vigilance, tap to surveil 1, and she is an archaeologist who are teaching kids, students, how to do archaeology. Well, you have a bunch of creatures, they all can tap and surveil 1. They can go a little digging, right? But you can make a whole deck out of that engine, and obviously I did that. And that is like a cool thing to sort of build a deck kind of concept, I would say, around. In 60 card, you can do similar things, but you don't have that same sort of access to, I always have this deck kind of at this time. One of the decks I was looking at that's pretty funny is called God, is it High Noon? High Noon MTG. This is not a competitive deck, but in modern Magic, okay, there is a like in standard rather, there is a card called High Noon. It is 1 in a white, and it says each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Okay, so it means you can only do 1 thing on a turn. Okay, you can't ramp and then play something crazy. There's another card called Aang Swift Savior. Okay. Aang Swift Savior says he has flash. When he enters, you airbend up to one other target spell or creature. Um, Airbending is when you exile something and then you can recast it for 2 generic. So the whole point of this deck, and this sounds like the kind of deck you would build, so I hope you're paying
What
attention,
you
is you
airbend
play
the
High
high
Noon, and then
you-
they play their own. They get one card. They play their card. You airbend it. They can't play it, so they just have to pass turn. And then you just keep blinking Aang with a bunch of different stuff, so that you can, anytime they ever try and cast something, you just airbend it, airbend it, airbend it, airbend it, so that they can never, and you just lock them out of the game until they concede or whatever. It is not a good, for the record, this is not a good standard deck. It is sort of a trolley best of one deck that people play on Magic Arena, because in best of 3 there are lots of sideboard options to fuck this whole process up, right? In 1v1 Magic, or I'm sorry, in best of 1 Magic, when you don't know you're going to run into, you can't have like the counter, like the
Right.
sideboard, stuff to hate this. You just kind of get owned by this stupid lock. And anyway, I don't know why I'm bringing up High Noon. You can build decks around concepts like this.
I was gonna
but
say, like, the way we build that in Commander is like, is that a legendary end? Can I put him in the command zone?
Yes, you can
Yeah,
put
like
him in the command
tutor
zone.
for High
But you
Noon,
can't.
tutor for High Noon, put it on the field, and then like airbend High Noon on my own turn, right? Like, and and so I get to cast a bunch of spells, and then like pay it back, airbend it on the end step of somebody else's turn, right? Like, cast it back down at the end of my own turn, and just kind of like lock the
As
board
like
up
the
that way.
final spell, yeah.
Yeah,
At the end of your turn, you cast your own,
you
thing.
unairbend the High Noon,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I legit, when I saw this deck list, I legit thought to myself, what if I downloaded? What if I downloaded
Arena just to fuck with people.
Arena just to play this fucking giga troll deck where the other thing that you can do that's very funny is, apparently it's like a Badger Mole Cub hate deck, because Badger Mole Cub um uh puts counters onto a land to turn it into a creature, right? So you airbend the creature that is their fucking land, and they have to, I think they just lose it forever. You can't cast a land. It's a land. You can target the land. It's up to one target creature. I don't know. Whatever. It just seems like a very hateful, kind of deck. Anyway, you can make decks like that
Yeah.
in 1v1. You can't really make that all that easily in Commander. Obviously, you'd have to jump through way more hoops, but hey, maybe those are hoops you want to jump through. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
was saying, like, I have in the endless pile of decks. I don't think I'm gonna make it for the current set of decks that I'm considering proxying. But
mhm.
uh, there is. I want to make a hidden commander deck where the commander is Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, which was it was the promo card on the original Zendikar set, which was a set that
Yep.
came out when we were in college, like when it was like my second renaissance for Magic, right? Like,
Yeah, I bought one of them for Savadar at PAX because he has that Sulfius mono red burn deck,
mm,
and I was like, this would be really good for you. When I was looking at cards, I just bought him Valakut because I thought it was sweet.
yeah. Back in that era, I had like a real Valakut deck, right? Like it ran like 4 Valakuts, 4 Oracle of Moldiah, right? Like it was, you know, and as with a lot of things that I do, like it was not meta at the time, but like a variant of it was meta like a couple sets later, and so I felt very 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 proud of that. An Oracle of Moldiah was like a card that I think was like $2 a pop when I bought it, but like I think it's like was like $20. I don't know what it's at now, but like it's
I imagine it is cheaper now. Let's take a look. Oracle of Moldiah. Just because, like, one of the things, it's still a $3 card,
okay.
ish. One of the things that Oracle of Moldiah did over the years is there were just other versions of it that came out and were strong, right? Like this ability to play
Play an extra land and
additional
without the
lands.
downside of having your top of your deck revealed, which is
Yeah.
that makes sense, yeah. But like I said, I want to build a like I know the commander I've picked out for it is like a popular landfall commander that I cannot remember the name of off the top of my head, but I will find it in just a second. Um, uh, I'm sure you might even be able to think of it right now. It is Mina and Den, Wildborn. Uh,
Oh yeah.
um, and I'm, you know, going to try. I'm not going to build any landfall into this deck, or like not. You know, it's not going to be. I'm going to try and build like a pseudo burn type deck with Valakut and a bunch of, kind of like tutor for Valakut effects. I'm going to put a thespian stage in there, right? Like, and this is a very stupid thing to do, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I feel you. I actually think that there's this one other kind of thing. Maybe if I could describe it in the clearest possible terms to somebody like Zhao for why Commander instead of other stuff. Um, I want Commander to be a um like I want Magic to be a complex game. Is kind of what I actually in a weird way sort of think that Magic is a game about manipulating the rule set more than anything else, where you are putting it's kind of like every card of Magic kind of has like a little quiet static effect that says the rules of the game are different this way, right? So for instance, when I play Takasia or whatever, and it cleaves this ability onto my whole big wide board, it turns all of my creatures into creatures that can like mill. It's kind of like I'm adding a rule to the game. It kind of like Takasia is a card that says there is a new rule to track for the duration of Magic, and every game of Magic is kind of about stacking dozens of those rules upon one another so that you get these interesting, unique, sort of emergent game states, some of which are simple and some of which are very, like incredibly complex, right? Where the right move is to swords to plowshares, Saurian's Bellow the Bard in order to shut off these double striking gigantic 4/4 enchantments that he has. Or where the right move is to sacrifice a bunch of treasures in response to a generous plunderer trigger so that you don't take 11 damage from that. Like, really, the game of Magic is about creating these incredibly complicated rule sets and then using that sort of emergent complication to make for really fun strategic sort of choices. That's what I would probably say typifies the best possible game of Magic, and Commander makes the best possible version of that happen because you're dealing with more players. You're not just dealing 1v1, and you're dealing with all of the variance that comes from just like wild stuff that you would never necessarily see in other, like in other decks or other formats or anything like those. So this is kind of that's my best way of
Yeah,
articulating this.
I also think there's a version of this where like it is it is hard to um it is hard to play a game of standard Magic where the goal, like, to play like a more casual standard game of Magic, in the sense that, like, yes, you can play Friday Night Magic with like a bunch of, random stuff, but like you are always pushing for the win. You are always kind of like it's one on one. There's no kind of like there's no dynamic politics. There's no like um there's less room to kind of like do a thing because it's fun to do, right? Like it's more like you are there to win the game, and how you do it has some variance, and that's true. But it is true, that is true in Commander, but it's less true, is less focused on kind of winning at all costs, I think.
Yeah.
At least in terms of like the way you construct your deck, and so um, it's a better social. Like, we could, when we play, instead of doing like our like our pod, or like our like 5 variants and 6 variants, we could instead like pair off and just play best of 3s and rotate through ourselves and have like ourselves a mini tournament each time. But that is not the vibe. We're going for this kind of like a goofy kind of fun bullshit that we like to go through. So it's
Yeah.
it's more it's like the difference between playing, I don't know, speed, chess, and Risk, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
That was a weird.
I don't know. I would imagine it would be like speed chess and like Scythe or something. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, Risk is a pretty good
yeah. I was
approximation, I
going for
guess.
a thing that like most people would know, as opposed to like
Yeah.
you know.
Axis and Allies, baby. We're
Yeah,
playing Axis and Allies. Okay. I actually do, for the record, I actually think it would be awesome to play some real Axis and Allies, but whatever.
diplomacy. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
it's speed chess versus diplomacy, right? Like,
I've been thinking about summer. I think I might drop the D&D game. So this is a spoiler alert. I think I might drop the winter D&D game. So after Ripples in the Sand, I think maybe that Monday night game becoming like a board game night or something along those lines could be where, something that's like unique and interesting and it's sort of fun. I've been talking to Rachel a little bit about it. Root is the one that I'm thinking about because it's the one that Warren really likes to play, that I played a little bit and was a lot of fun. It actually feels quite a lot like Commander, for a number of sort of different reasons, but um, I don't know. I do sort of love the idea of playing a board game. Honestly, Diplomacy would also be great. The reason why it makes, for the record, is I could just leave that shit on my table. Do you know what I mean? And we can just
yeah,
come back to it the next week. So like if, we play for 3 hours and we don't finish it, we can just come back to it and we don't have to pack the game up. We just leave it there on the table and, get back into it the next week on sort of the next Monday. And when I had that like brain blast of I'm an adult and my dining room table is like a fixed entity that I can just do what I want with and leave a board game with all of his pieces on there. It made me want to dedicate some real time out of our complicated schedules towards, a regular, sort of board game night thing.
I think I'd be sad if you dropped the winter D&D game, but you know that's
I think low kicks would be sad. I would also be open. I don't know. I think maybe I'm just DMing too much in the first place,
yes, that's fair.
and like somebody else could DM it, like the winter game or something like that. But there's also a small part of me that's like, boy, man, DMing two different games. Even DMing two different games a week is not what I'm doing anymore. But DMing two different games is kind of a lot, and there's a version of me that wants to scale that back a little.
Yeah. Lou says, but where will you paint your dollies? I'm pretty sure you have like a desk set up for that, right?
Yeah, I have this table back here in, for those of you watching the YouTube video. This is my little dollies get assembled and painted. So
Yeah. Uh, for like the winter thing, maybe I'll step up and run something. Reportedly, the Angry GM is going to put Slapdash into playtest sometime this year, which would be fun. Uh,
that's awesome. I'm super down for that
yeah,
if you want to make it work.
that or maybe what's I have the box of cards over there, Blackbirds, which was a fun thing that I played at Gen Con last year, and I have the book for. So maybe that or maybe our old Lancer. The files that I have been getting updated, so maybe they decided to finally catch like weirdly popular system Lancer that was abandoned because its creators didn't have enough time to finish everything they wanted to finish about it, but it's still like monstrously popular. It is. I maybe we'll be getting more Lancer soon. So, although I don't know.
Well, very cool.
Yeah,
Anyway, I guess that's about enough for a grab
yeah.
bag. Is there anything else that you wanted to hit on here?
Just to hit on that, we're not going to talk about it this week because we'll probably talk about it in the future, which is the death of Destiny. I feel like me talking about how I've been playing so much Marathon, and I have, and then like not mentioning Destiny would be a weird thing to do.
Yeah, the fact that Destiny is gone
Well,
is,
it's
or
not
imminently gone,
it's
in
not
the next
gone.
couple
It's
of
going
weeks.
into maintenance mode, right? Like I do want to strip like there is a much worse world where Sony pulls down the servers and no one ever plays Destiny again, right? People are still
That's
playing
fair.
Destiny
Yeah.
1, right? Like uh so and like I think there will still be a good amount of content to play through post June 9th, right? Like there's the new stuff plus like, there's stuff there. And obviously it's not going to be super long for this world, but I don't want to say I want to push back a little bit against like it is dead and gone because it's not. It's just like kind of, It's
Yeah, they are
retiring.
not pulling down the servers, but I don't know. It feels momentous. This is if somebody had told me WoW is getting one final update and then active development is ceasing, that's what it feels like to me for Destiny 2 to get that. I just think that it it hit it. It was
Yeah.
it was a fixture for a long, long time. And they've just kind of run out of space, I guess.
Run out of
So
runway. Run
I don't
out of
know.
patience at
Yeah.
Sony. Uh,
Yeah, the brutal part about it is there's no Destiny 3 in development. There's no any of this other kind of stuff. They, like the first announcement, I kind of had a little bit of a hopium for. I was like, oh well, maybe they're just going to kind of incubate hard on. They talk about projects they're incubating. I was like, oh well, obviously this is Destiny 3. But then I watched the Paul Tassi video that you mentioned, and then I read the Jason Schreier article, both of which are pretty brutal. And it's just like, yeah, there are no plans. They don't know what to do with Destiny. It's just kind of over. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. I think Sony is probably smart enough to realize they've got a valuable IP, and maybe it won't come back in a way that will be the most valuable. But I don't think it's dead forever because I don't think anything's dead forever, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're re-releasing fucking Legacy of Kain, right? Like, um, but yes, it is. It's what's playing in my head right now is Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. It's been a long. I can't sing too much.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Rip to a real one, and also rip to a real one. Star Wars. Another thing I want to, but I don't really know what else there is really to say about it besides there is a new Star Wars movie in theaters, and it's going to be the first Star Wars movie in my entire life that I don't think I'm gonna go see it. And I almost want to for the sake of the tradition. I've seen every one of in theaters, opening weekend or whatever. We're currently in the opening weekend for The Mandalorian, but I don't fucking care, man. I don't give a fuck about Mandalorian and this is just a weird the feeling, especially after like midnight screenings for, The Phantom Menace and Revenge of the
I,
that. I
I
dressed up. I was a Jedi for 2 weeks before we went to go see Revenge of the Sith. And then when we got there, we had a lightsaber fight during the trailers because everybody was so hyped that we came dressed up. And it's just like all of that to be gone is so weird in my kind of.
I wonder how much of that, like, one is that this is the way the general public is feeling about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, and two, like, how much of this is, we've talked ad nauseum about the Disney era of Star Wars. Now it's not great, right? Um, but I wonder how much of this is also like when you hit a certain kind of uh like like massive stuff you need to have viewed in order to get everything, if that's just kind of like the tipping point, right? Like,
Yeah.
if Mandalorian and Grogu was just a movie and there weren't 3 seasons of a show, of which I haven't watched 2 of, right? And then also maybe Book of Boba Fett, and maybe also like, I should have watched Ahsoka and Kenobi and Andor and Rebels and what was the fucking one that everybody hated?
The Acolyte.
The Acolyte, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, and fucking Jedi babies, which is what like at one point, like, it was all Star Wars was always very good about if you wanted to engage with the wider universe, you could, but it was purely optional, right? There wasn't anything in I don't know in Revenge of the Sith that required you to have played, required you to have played uh Jedi Knight 2 or like, the Gungan Moon or, have read the Cad Bane books, right? Like uh uh like how much of this is just kind of like there's too much that you have to swallow in order to really be up to date with it.
Yeah, I think that honestly, my real feeling on this is about cowardice, is the way that I want to phrase it. Um, obviously, I think the prequels are like complicated. People don't think that, they're. I don't think anybody would say that like the prequels are the height of cinema or whatever, right? But there's just this vision to them, to the Clone Wars, to this period, the fall of the Republic and kind of the birth of the Empire, that accompanied the prequels, that was just happening on a world building setting level, and it was keying into kind of all of these different sort of places, and it was all rooted in the vision that George Lucas really kind of like had for what Star Wars was, right? I don't think there is that, and I think the lack of it is cowardice. Is how I want to phrase it. I think that there are people out there who could have a interesting and deep and complex vision for what Star Wars could look like outside of the prequels and outside of the original trilogy and outside of the sequel trilogy, I guess now, or what say that the sequel trilogy is a deep failure on this front, and the number one coward who I am accusing of cowardice is J.J. Abrams, right? But until that thing returns to Star Wars, and I don't think The Mandalorian satisfies that condition, I kind of don't think that Star Wars is really ever going to kind of be good again. It's such a huge bet to take and such a huge swing that I just kind of don't think that anybody's ever going to get on with I don't think anyone was going to get on board with it again. George Lucas got to do it because he ran it. It was his thing. Nobody could tell him fucking no. But like,
Uh,
unless I don't know.
uh,
What?
I will push back slightly in that.
Okay.
I think just about no one could tell George Lucas no, right? Because like people did George Lucas no in the OG trilogy, which is, you know,
Sure.
yeah.
It's
But no, I take
the
what you
thing
mean.
I am making, yeah, like
He's an
George
artist. He's an
Lucas.
auteur, right?
Exactly, right? The thing that I think Disney is waiting for in a way, and the reason that The Mandalorian exists is because they're kind of, they're doing kind of art by focus group in a way, is maybe how I would describe that. And art by focus group is not going to be good. It's not going to get you the results that you want, is what I think and what I believe here. George Lucas did not do art by focus group. People did not like his art very much, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but he stuck to his guns and he delivered the prequels and the Clone Wars and all of that kind of stuff, and it is a rich text with a lot of stuff to it that is like interesting and complex on a world building level and all this other sort of stuff. And until somebody wants to do that and show a similar kind of vision, and Disney sort of has the balls to commit to it, I just kind of don't think that we're going to be in a world where Star Wars is going to be good.
I'm gonna tie it. We're gonna do a callback here. It's it's like baseball. You have if you want to hit a run, you got to swing, and you could miss, and you're not gonna get anywhere by just bunting all the time, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is I think kind of what I think a lot of the Disney era Star Wars stuff has been bunts that like and like you can do that for a little while, but like you can't just keep doing these safe things. And I don't know enough about it about Mando because I didn't quite like the first season. Um uh and I certainly like um John or I have a little bit more faith in John Favreau than in what I saw out of Kathleen Kennedy. Um but it like you said, it feels like art by committee. It feels like a product more than it is a piece of cinema, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on those two depressing notes, we'll sign off here.
Yeah.
Our two favorite space epics are dead. Everybody go home and cry. If you'd like to email us about how sad you are about the death of space epics, you can email us at subvertsplaygames@gmail.com or podcast at subvertsplaygames.com. You can find us on twitch.tv and youtube.com/subvertsplaygames where these go out live. Rate reviews wherever you find podcasts. All the links that I can think of will be down in the description. Buddy, you have anything you're looking to promote?
I don't have anything I'm looking to promote. No.
Did your game come out since we last cast, or was that before that?
I think I had already talked about Kumitate, which came out. It was about a month ago at this point.
Okay.
So
yeah, Kumitate. Montabi's got a demo. Anything else to?
Yeah, there is a showcase this week that we're in, the Thinky Game showcase for Echo Weaver, which I'm excited about, so you can check that out. And then also we're in SGF with Montabi, so the week after that Montabi is going to be doing a thing, so keep an eye out. I'm going to do some Twitch live streams for like watch parties for both of those, so nice. Yeah.
All right, well, with that I'm going to say until next time, dear listeners.
Until next time, loyal listeners, goodbye.